guys, it's Casey from Hager Mountain Homestead. I'm back in my garage again because we're going to talk about these baby chicks that we have here. In this video, I'm going to cover our basic brooder setup that we have here. I'm going to talk a little bit about basic chick care, and then I'm going to talk about the difference between meat chicks and laying hen chicks. There's a little bit of breed specific things that we do different for meat chicks that we don't do for laying hens, etc. And then I'm going to talk about our plans for these specific chicks and kind of where our business is going to go from here. First things first, this is our brooder setup. This plastic container here is an IBC tote. It's normally double this size and it comes in like a metal cage. And this is usually used for fuel storage. It's used for different oils, different lubricants. There are food grade ones. This one that we purchased is food grade. So I didn't want any kind of weird chemicals in this because I knew we were going to use it for chicks. When we got this home, we cut it directly in half. So this is half of the container here. And we have a second one that looks exactly like this. I got this idea off of the Holler Homestead. I saw them doing this for their chicks and it just made a lot of sense because of the size and the fact that it's waterproof. Some people use totes, like plastic totes, for chick brooders, but that was way too small for what we wanted to do. This next thing's a little bit controversial, more so in the online space. I haven't heard a lot of controversy talked about in like local communities with it, but we use a heat lamp. A lot of people are bashing other farmers for using heat lamps because of the fire risk. And I understand people have lost their houses, people have lost animals, they've lost sheds, etc., like barns, because they caught fire. But this just so happens to be what we have. We got this heat lamp when we got our first batch of chicks back in 2019. They're inexpensive, they're reliable for us, and then I secured this. I took a drill and I drilled here and drilled through our tote. So this beam here is secure. This piece of wood's really secure. And then I zip tied this here. So even if the chicks jump up and hit this, this is not going to fall into our brooder. The other option other than this heat lamp, some people will get brooder plates, and those are talked about as being safer. It is an electric heat plate that you can have horizontally. You can have it horizontally and they can go underneath, or you can have it vertically and they can kind of go up next to. In the future, I would like to get some of those and have a little bit more of an intricate brooder setup. But for now, this is what we have. We're going to use what we have instead of just purchasing new things. I've done everything I can to make sure that it's safe, and we have not had an issue with this current setup. The next thing you need for your chicks is some sort of water source. This is just a basic water. I believe it's a gallon that we purchased at a local farm store, and this works really well. It's easy to clean. Once they're larger, we're going to transition them over to a cup watering system to keep it a little bit cleaner, but while they're little babies, this works just fine for us. Next is a feeder, and in between talking to you guys, I'm gonna come in and clean these little pine shavings out, and I'm gonna kind of, you can pick it up. Hey, let me see. Yep, let me see. Give it a little shake. Give it a little twist and shake, and it gets some more of the crumbles down for them. Right now in their life stage, they are allowed access to food 24/7, but that's going to change, and I'll talk about that in a couple minutes. Next is bedding, and these are just some of the basic pine shavings. We got these at Tractor Supply right before we picked up our chicks. I put a nice layer in the bottom. What we like to do is, you can see this area here. They spend a lot more time in this area because it's under the heat lamp. So that area is a little bit dirtier. I'm going to throw some fresh pine shavings down here just to give it a little freshen up here. And then once that next layer gets a little bit saturated, I'm actually going to remove everything and give them all fresh bedding. That's our brooder setup. And then as far as basic chick care, we keep the heat lamp in there, and then you can tell how warm or cool they are based off of where they are under that heat lamp. When they're a little bit cold and they might need it moved a little bit closer, you want to lower that heat lamp down so it gets a little bit warmer for them. But these guys right now, I'll turn it around and show you again. These guys are mostly around the food and water, and then they're even hanging out in that back corner. So I can tell, and when I came down, some of them were sleeping in these other corners. I can tell based off of that they're not overly cold. So I'm content where this is. And then as they get a little bit older, they need the heat lamp less and less. So we'll raise it up, give them a little bit less warmth, and then they'll eventually transition outside. Where they're at right now, they're really easy to take care of. They just need food, water, warmth, and clean bedding. One of the things you do want to look for, though, is something called pasty butt. And in this specific batch that we got, we drove about a 2-hour drive out to Johnstown, Pennsylvania to Myers Poultry Company. And I don't know if it has to do with that or just luck, but we have not had pasty butt in a single bird out of this batch yet. Now, our chicks that we got last year, which are laying hens, we had 2 that had pasty butt pretty bad, and I was down here checking constantly and trying to clean them up. I'm going to insert a clip here, just kind of showing you what that looks like and how we took care of it. Pasty butt can be dangerous for the birds because when they defecate, it can actually get blocked up. And if that happens, then they can't poop anymore. If they can't poop, they get backed up and the birds actually end up dying. So if you do see that in your birds, you need to keep it clean and make sure that you stay clean. And this does usually tend to only affect these like little baby birds. Once they get a little bit older, you don't have to worry about it as much. And as far as these guys go, we picked them up on Tuesday. So they were probably 1 or 2 days old at that point, and it's now Saturday. These are Cornish cross broilers. They are a type of meat chick, and these ones are going to be raised and butchered for meat. The thing that makes these different than regular laying hens is the size that they grow to and the speed that they grow. These chicks will actually, from the time they hatch to when we can butcher them, it's between 9 and 11 weeks. So we're planning on butchering around that 10-week mark. And yes, they get big, really fast. That's something to keep in mind if you are considering meat chicks. And the way that that differs from laying hens is they take a lot longer to mature. They're going to be in their brooder a little bit longer because they don't grow as quickly. They don't get their feathers in. You can see here that these guys are already starting to get little feathers in on their wings. And I want to say they didn't double in size, but they're almost doubled in size from when we got them. Because they grow so fast, once they get to a couple weeks old, we're going to start limiting their food. If these specific birds eat too much, they grow too quickly, and they can have health problems. They actually, if they grow too quickly, they can have heart attacks. They can grow, their body grows quicker than their legs can handle, and they can get broken legs. And that's something to keep in mind with the meat chicks. You can't purchase meat chicks and then change your mind later and say, I'm going to keep them as pets or have them lay eggs, because they will not lead healthy, happy lives if you let them go past that full-grown butcher date. The laying hens, on the other hand, they get food and water 24/7. You don't have to worry about them growing too quickly. You just want to keep in mind that they will need different food. They usually start with a starter, like a chick starter crumble, and then they will need to switch to a grower later on. We're currently feeding a meat bird crumble, and that is actually able to take them from hatch to butcher. And as far as our plan for these birds, I already mentioned that they're going to be raised and butchered for meat. That is inevitable with this breed, and we are going to be taking orders and selling the birds to people before they're butchered. And then after they're butchered by a Pennsylvania licensed butcher, they will get their meat back. Once they're old enough to go outside, we'll actually put them out in their chicken tractor, and we put them out a little bit earlier and then put the heat lamp out with them just to get them out of our house, because they do tend to get a little messy once they start getting bigger, a little bit stinky, and I don't want them in my garage. The plan for that money, I would like to get a second chicken tractor, and then eventually, as we do more batches, I would like to have an outdoor brooder set up. I'd like to purchase an additional building where we can brood them in that building. So we'll have this same setup, just outdoors, and I don't have to worry about them being in my house anymore. But this is where we're starting, and this is a brand new business for us, and we have to kind of do what we have to do right now. We're also planning on planting a lot of flowers this year that I would like to sell, and then the profits from that will also go back into the business. And I would like to eventually get a greenhouse set up where we can start a bunch of seeds, potentially start selling seedlings in the spring. I also am currently enrolled in a program called Heroes to Hives. It's an online class for beekeepers. It's very, very in-depth from the course outline that I've seen so far. After I complete that, we're going to be ramping up a honeybee operation as well. We only have 2 acres here, so we're a little bit limited on what exactly we can grow, sell, etc. But I'm trying to make the most of it. As far as the meat chick operation goes, this has to be on our property or very close. Because they're going to be on that 12 hours on, 12-hour off feed schedule, I need to be close to them, make sure that they have food and water during the day, and then make sure that I can remove their food at night. That being said, all of our other business ventures don't necessarily have to be on our property. So we're looking into avenues to lease land from other local farmers. I'd like to place beehives somewhere else and then potentially have flowers on another property. That's all obviously going to depend on kind of who we can find where and what they're interested in letting us lease their land for. That's kind of like super long-term goal, since it does not look likely that we'll be able to purchase a larger farm ourselves in the near future, or ever, depending on how this real estate market goes. We're doing what we can, and I love it, so I'm gonna keep doing it. If you want to see these guys grow up to full butcher weight, if you want more chicken tips, if you want to see us transition them into the chicken tractor once they're old enough, make sure you give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and then if you want to leave a comment too, we appreciate all of that. We'll see you next time. Bye.